Hello and welcome. My name is Trismegistus, and I was lucky enough to be part of the closed beta test for version 2.1 of Factorio. In this video, I'm going to tell you about some of the changes that I personally found to be useful, interesting, or just plain cool, now that version 2.1 has launched into its open beta over the summer. But first, a few facts and figures about the changelog. There were approaching 600 entries in the changelog for the closed beta version when it launched. However, just under 200 of them were bug fixes and nearly 300 of them are modding related. And while I'm sure many of these are great and super useful, that's far too many to cover in a short video like this. But even chopping those out leaves us with around 100 changes that I've read through and played with for this video. And they cover everything from graphics to GUI to new features and quality of life. So I've cherry-picked a few of my favourites and grouped them together for your viewing pleasure. Well, that's enough intro. Let's get on with it. Okay, let's start with a couple of random things that I found really cool. First off, I got what I and many other people have wanted. Added planets in the background of space platforms. Yes, that's right, all of the planets are now visible in orbit. The next one is for those of you struggling with interplanetary throughput. From the patch notes it seems a bit innocent. Added landing pad unloading bay. Well, here it is, and this is going to be a game changer because it lets you directly remove things from the landing pad with inserters. It does come with some restrictions. It doesn't provide a slot for drop pods, for example, and it has a build distance limit of 59 tiles from the landing pad. But it means you can remove as much stuff from landing pads via trains, belts and bots as you have room to build. Next up, this last random one is described as a slight quality buff. Rocket launch animation times scale slightly with rocket silo quality. But, as you can see, it's actually pretty huge. The differences in launch times between a legendary and a normal silo are massive. Unfortunately, for those of you who like gambling, I'm afraid space casinos have been nerfed. Disallow quality modules to be applied to crushers with asteroid reprocessing recipes. Normal asteroid crushing can still have them, but this approach is pretty much defunct. On a side note here, for those that don't like gambling in your Factorio at all, quality is now no longer a requirement in Space Age. Converted Space Age mod's dependency on the quality mod to a recommendation. This means the quality mod can be disabled while keeping the Space Age mod enabled. And the recycler has been made a separate mod. Added separate recycler mod. The recycler is required for Space Age, but if you want to just use the recycler, or a mod uses it, then that's now an option. Okay, the next collection of changes is a bit more coherent, which is that a whole load of extra stuff can now be connected to the circuit network, including boilers and heat exchangers can be connected to the circuit network. Heat pipes can be connected to the circuit network. Pipes and pipes to ground can be connected to the circuit network. And even landmines. Landmines can be connected to the circuit network. So, I don't know, maybe you can now set horrible booby traps for demolishers, you heartless monster you. And to go along with these changes, more info can now be gathered and used in the circuit network, including for pipes, fluids and storage tanks. Added circuit network reads for pipeline contents and fluid temperature to pipes, pipes to ground and storage tanks, as well as for agricultural towers. Added separate circuit network controls for disabling harvesting and planting to agricultural towers. And labs. Labs can be connected to the circuit network, read current research cost, and set current research based on conditions. So, as it says, for labs, you can now set the research via the circuit network. And speaking of the circuit network, if I was to characterize this update, it would be the quality of life update. A whole bunch of nice little improvements have been made, such as circuit connectable entities with a control GUI on the side now have settings grouped into input and output sections. Added an option to select which wires, red, green or both, should be used by a circuit connectable entity for input and separately for output. And there's an example of what that enables. Requester and buffer chests can now set requests and read contents at the same time. And in even bigger news, you can now send signals between planets and platforms via radars. Added universe mode of operation to radar circuit connections for transfer of cross-surface signals. Let's pick the circuit network stuff back up in a moment because I just can't contain myself. It's finally happened. Pump jacks can be flipped. Added pump jack and burner mining drill flipping. Oh, and I guess burner mining drills as well. And in another couple of banger quality of life improvements, inserters can be flipped to make blueprint flipping reliable. Which sounds a bit innocent, doesn't it? But what it means is that inserters placing items on belts heading away from them can be flipped to place items on either side of the belt. Plus, inserters dropping items onto a splitter always insert onto the input lines. So now you don't need that extra bit of belt for some configurations of inserters and balancers. Combine these together and you're better able to fill belts with inserters. Nice. The next couple are for all you spaghetti enjoyers. Allow placement of elevated rails over cargo bays and block them from receiving cargo pods in this state. This tweak to elevated rails should help you make even more of a mess. Added toggle visibility of tall entities shortcut, which makes elevated rails translucent and unselectable. That means you can still see what you're doing. Factoriopedia got a few extras as well, but two I wanted to highlight are added pin to Factoriopedia, which enables it to stay opened when working on other stuff. As you can see, you can keep it open, which is a huge help when working on builds with complex ratios. And added a button to Factoriopedia to hide unresearched content. That last one should help those who get a bit overwhelmed with what they can build and when, as well as helping new players and those who don't want to see spoilers from the get-go. Another nice little extra is that the side menu minimap can be zoomed with the Shift plus mouse wheel, so you can better see what's going on with a quick glance at the minimap. Lastly in this section, made Rocket Silo's rocket inventory size dynamic so it is only weight restricted. If you want to put in one each of a whole load of different things, then you can, so long as the total weight limit isn't exceeded. A boost for all you Cargo Tetris enjoyers. Which leads me on to my other favourite improvements for platforms. Are you ready? Platform hubs can use the circuit network for requesting. Space Platform Hub can set requests from circuit network. This pairs really well with the universe mode for radars, which I kinda glossed over before. This isn't some simple 1 or 2 channel thing. Each radar can broadcast one channel, but they can use a separate symbol. In other words, symbols can be used as separate channels. Now don't get me wrong, that could get a bit confusing. For example, using the iron plate channel to send information about stone from Aquilo to, Volcanus is possible, but it might melt your brain. And, what's more, you can move things between platforms. Orbital requests can request from other space platforms. The point is that version 2.1 makes platforms super flexible. Universe mode can link everything to everything else, and platform-to-platform transfer lets us move things around pretty much how we want. Yes, my dreams of living on a supercontroller platform in space may be one step closer. Oh, and while we're here, added logic to batch small platform requests into one rocket and use mixed rockets which are filled manually, or with inserters for automated launch. This means that those of you who are wanting to do funky things with rocket contents now can. Or, to put it another way, it just works. TM. The game got a bit of a lift and tuck for version 2.1 as well. Added ruins and decoratives to Fulgora oil sands. You can bet I'll be looking at these for some lore speculation down the road. Allowed planting trees on Nauvis sand tiles, so we can make Nauvis as pretty as we want, although the trees it plants are a little unusual. Added robot door to rocket silo and working visualization improvements. Yep, even rocket silos have had a bit of a tweak. New oil refinery graphics. These are one of the oldest unchanged assets in the game, so it was nice to see them getting some love. And both the refinery and rocket silo also got some audio improvements too. New sounds of refinery, rocket silo. And kinda related to that are updated graphics and working visualizations for heat exchangers. This makes them a bit more visually similar stylistically to both the boiler and the electric furnace. This makes sense since the engineer would probably reuse a lot of the same tech. But there's an even bigger improvement. New assembling machine graphics. Yep, there's new assembly machine graphics for every level of assembly machine. I secretly never thought they'd ever actually update these, but here they are and they look lovely. Oh, and I saved the best for last. The fish now swim more too. Remote view will activate chunks when zoomed in, so biters and fish move around. Yes, that's right, trains have received quality buffs. Locomotive power and max speed increases with quality. The max speed and acceleration are, shown here with regular nuclear fuel and max braking force, common 259 kph and 600 kilowatts, uncommon 267 kph and 720 kilowatts, rare 275 kph and 840 kilowatts, epic 283 kph and 960 kilowatts, and legendary 298 kph and 1.2 megawatts. These things go like the clappers. So let's have a train race. As you can see, it makes a huge difference as you step up in quality level. And it's not just the locomotives. Cargo wagon inventory size increases with quality. The step change between quality levels is common 40 slots, uncommon 50 slots, rare 60 slots, epic 70 slots, and legendary an eye-watering 10 slots. So maybe now trains will be able to compete with stacked turbo belts. Quality also gives a train-related buff to storage tanks as well. Storage tank fluid volumes increases with quality. Here are the new volumes. Common 25,000, uncommon 32,000, rare 40,000, epic 47,000, legendary 62,000. And if you're wondering how that relates to trains, it's because fluid wagons also increase in capacity, keeping a 2-to-1 ratio with their appropriate tank type. In other words, 2 storage tanks of a given quality will fill a fluid wagon of the same quality. The fluid wagon volumes are therefore common 50,000, uncommon 65,000, rare 80,000, epic 95,000, and legendary 125,000. But there's more. Pumps can now connect to non-aligned wagons and to wagons on curved rails. So, for all of you who have struggled with fluid wagon connections because the train was on a slight bend or what have you, the pump connection has been reworked and is now super flexible. It simply reaches over and grabs onto the nearest available connection. They also resort themselves as you add pumps. Basically, they're smart pumps now. You can even put them behind the wagon and they'll connect. Pumps can now connect to fluid wagons on both ends. I, for one, can't wait for Dosh's Can You Beat Factorio with Only Abominable Fluid Wagon Connections challenge. Oh, and to support the changes to pumps, new pump wagon connector graphics. And they do look very nice. Since I got you all riled up about the train improvements, let's finish off with some combat changes. Flamethrower turrets can now be rotated 8 ways instead of 4. This slight tweak to flamer turrets enables them to point in all 8 directions. The new angled ones look really kind of cool in my opinion, and I guess they're now even more OP. And there's a whole raft of changes to the shotgun, which will please my fellow shotgun enjoyers. Shotguns no longer slow the player when shooting. They reduce the price of their piercing shotgun shell recipe. They increased piercing shotgun shell damage from 8 to 12. They increased the combat shotgun damage bonus from 20% to 50%. They reduce the bullet spread of shotguns, and the shotgun pellet hit effect will slow down enemies briefly. They also move piercing shotgun shells from military 4 to military 3, while moving the combat shotgun from military 3 to military 4. However, they did increase the shotgun shooting speed from 1 second to 1.5 seconds. Wilby seem to be displeased with the way you've all been emasculating biter nests, so they've reduced the biter spitter spawning ranges and increased spawning precision, and made it so that biter and spitter spawners will emit a cloud of damaging acid if they are blocked from spawning units. And asteroids have gotten a tweak that actually makes them both weaker and tougher. Reworked asteroid damage. Asteroids take damage when they collide with entities and tiles, but they're no longer slowed down. Note that when I loaded up an old save to check these changes out, my Promethean platform almost immediately died because of this change. So I guess they felt it needed to be a bit harder to get to the Shattered Planet, especially if you're travelling at speed. But there's still plenty of good news. For example, they added patrol supports to Spidertrons. To do this, you just need to create a loop of waypoints. Simply click on an existing waypoint to make them go around and around and around and around and around and around and around. Okay, so as you can tell, I'm pretty pleased with this. There's nothing in there like a big new feature, but that's okay. Although note that 2.1 is going to be worked on over the summer, so maybe they'll sneak something in at the end. Anyway, I'm particularly pleased as a couple of things I specifically asked for in my wishlist video have made it. We've got even more communication options between planets and platforms. You can move stuff between platforms, and you can even see the planets in space. I never really expected any of my suggestions to actually be put in the game, platform to platform transfer in particular, so it's nice that some have been. Note that I'm not claiming credit there, it's just nice to get the prediction right. And a couple of things I'm always moaning about, like unflippable punt jacks, have been addressed too. As I mentioned at the start of the video, there's also been a massive number of additions, changes and improvements to support modding. So hopefully, even though Woo may not be adding new features, modders can give us even more new stuff to play with. One day, I may even get to escape the Nauvis system. Anyway, if you want to have a good laugh at all the stuff I was asking for and didn't get, then why not give my version 2.1 wishlist video a watch. And you're better able to fill birds? That's my belly gurgling.